Welcome to the Scaringi Law Lunch Break. This is your time of the day to learn a little bit about the law while you enjoy your lunch. Special Counsel Robert Mueller, who is investigating the non-existent collusion between President Trump's campaign and the Russian government to interfere in the 2016 presidential election, has just filed his pre-sentencing memorandum in the criminal case his office brought against Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Last December, Flynn pled guilty to lying to the FBI about his contacts with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. And as part of the deal he made, Flynn committed to cooperate with the special counsel's investigation. Flynn had pled guilty to making materially false statements to the FBI, which is a felony under federal law. In the sentencing memo, Mueller assessed Flynn's cooperation with the special counsel as substantial and wrote that a sentence at the low end of the guideline range, including a sentence that does not impose a term of incarceration, is appropriate and warranted. That cooperation has caused the special counsel to argue for what is called a downward departure from the guideline sentencing range. Let me explain. Federal judges sentence criminal defendants according to the guidelines. The guidelines are advisory and not mandatory. The guidelines in Flynn's case call for a sentence of anywhere from 0 to 6 months incarceration. Because Flynn cooperated with those investigating and prosecuting him, the special counsel is recommending that the judge afford Flynn a downward departure from the 0 to 6 months guideline sentencing range. If the judge does so, it will almost guarantee Flynn a non-incarcerative sentence, which is probation. Well, what is the nature of Flynn's cooperation? We don't know. It's described in an addendum to the special counsel's pre-sentencing memo, but most of it's redacted. But one conclusion we can draw from Flynn's cooperation is that whatever it was, it has produced no charges, let alone guilty pleas or convictions, of Trump campaign aides for colluding with the Russians, which the FBI has been investigating for 2.5 years now. The memo lays out the nature of the offense Flynn committed. It explains how the Washington Post reported that on December 29th of 2016, Flynn spoke with the Russian ambassador about the sanctions the Obama administration had imposed upon the Russian government for interfering in the presidential election. The memo does not explain that the existence of the phone call was leaked illegally to the Washington Post by someone in the highest levels of the Obama administration. The memo also does not explain that the phone call was known to the FBI because the Obama FBI had wiretapped Flynn's phone with a FISA court warrant that was issued as a result of the false dossier paid for by the Clinton campaign and secretly given to the Obama FBI. In any event, Flynn had pled guilty to lying when he denied he had those conversations with the Russian ambassador. But having those conversations is a good way. It's a good thing, right? I mean, we don't want Russia to escalate the matter. We don't want Russia to be hostile to the U.S. And those conversations were perfectly legal. Flynn was the incoming national security advisor on the Trump transition team. The presidential transition guide the Trump team was provided to guide them through the transition says this. It encouraged them to coordinate outreach to and interaction with foreign dignitaries to build support and momentum for major policy initiatives. Well, as the incoming national security advisor, it was in Flynn's job description and set forth in the transition guide he was handed to communicate with foreign ambassadors, such as the Russian ambassador, about policy initiatives, such as don't escalate the sanction issue. That's exactly what he did. Why would Flynn deny he had conversations that were lawful for him to have? Who knows? In any event, Special Counsel Mueller claims those false statements by Flynn were material to the FBI's investigation into this alleged collusion to interfere in the presidential election. Well, how were they material? The election was over when the conversation occurred. And Mueller has brought no charges for collusion in 2.5 years of an FBI investigation. And the conversation, a transcript of which the FBI had possession of, was Flynn saying to the Russians, don't escalate the situation over the sanctions. There's nothing to do with collusion. It's not material to the FBI's investigation. Why did Flynn and his attorneys not fight this fact? Who knows? The rest of Mueller's memo regarding the nature of the offenses talks about Flynn making false statements about his involvement with the Republic of Turkey. Of course, that had nothing to do with the alleged Trump-Russian collusion. It's nonsense that these false statements were material to the FBI's investigation. They weren't. Why Flynn didn't challenge this? We don't know. Well, we do know. He says that he couldn't afford to continue to pay his attorneys to represent him in the case. Well, notice Flynn has not been charged with collusion or conspiracy to interfere in the 2016 presidential election. He's not been charged with espionage or anything to do with elections or collusion or conspiracy with the Russian government or its agents. That's because at the time Flynn was interviewed by the FBI, he had committed no crimes. When he was finished with his interview by the FBI, apparently he had the crime of lying to the FBI. Flynn's sentencing date is scheduled for December 18th. We'll have more to say then. But in the meantime, what lesson can we learn from the Flynn case? Don't talk to the FBI. And if you're contacted by the FBI for any reason, contact your attorney first. If you have any questions or concerns about an FBI investigation or any law enforcement investigation, give Scaringi Law a call at 717-657-7770. We have several attorneys in our office with extensive experience in handling FBI and law enforcement investigations. That's all the time we have today for the Scaringi Law Lunch Break. Thanks for listening and enjoy your lunch.